Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Closeted Conversations, where we create a safe space to talk about social taboos and social norms and share our perspectives about them. So, don't forget, if this is your first video, or even if it's not, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Okay? So, today we have a guest speaker, a good friend of mine, a friend of mine that has been since elementary, right? Elementary. How do we reconciliate with religion? And the reason I ask that is because, as for example, myself as a queer man, uh, religion sometimes wasn't. It's always been, and especially in our community, something that we don't either talk about or we have a great grudge on, right? Sometimes because it just was used against us to say that we weren't valid. I'm curious, what was your experience growing up with religion?
Um, well, it was a good experience up until like maybe middle school. I think maybe when I started hitting puberty, because I realized, I guess maybe because I started thinking for myself.
Mm.
And you start reading other books in school and you learn other ways of thinking. And I think that's when I realized, oh, I don't really have to go to church. And then that was difficult with my family. But I think prior to that, it was fun because there was like a lot of music. They made it seem like it was a big party. Um, but then there were some underlying things that I just wasn't so sure about.
For me, I was raised Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And I say Christian. I don't know what that means, to be honest. I just know I was raised Christian because that's what my mom told me. Uh, but we used to go to church, but at one point we stopped going because my mom was like, she started noticing sometimes people at church may be hypocrites, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
to badmouth talk people who go to church or anything like that, but sometimes it's the whole like love thy neighbor and so on and so forth. But
There
then,
was some drama that ensued, maybe, or.
well, no, sometimes you hear people talk smack about other people or
Mm,
just be very judgy
yeah.
about people, and when in reality I thought that when it comes to like church or religion that you're supposed to love everyone like
Mm-hmm.
God.
Well, I guess personally, like growing up, you mentioned how like the kids were separated into their own
Yeah.
like time, their own time away from the parents. And I didn't have like the best experiences with the kids, not because they were bullying me, but more because I felt so ostracized. Like everyone like already spoke English very fluently, so there was like a kind of like a class issue going on even with the kids. And it didn't feel, yeah, it just didn't feel like I fit in, even though I was going to the same church as everyone. They have that like experience of going to school out in the world, and then they come to church and go to like their little school at night or on Sunday church. So there must be like some, I don't want to say trauma, but I feel like there is some trauma going back and forth between these two worlds. And I don't know if it's like that with the older people.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was my experience.
Did you have any customs like religious customs growing up? Like for example, I know some people like pray before dinner
Yeah.
or you know or
Not with
Lent or things like that.
not with my family directly, but I think going to other people's homes in the church, yeah, it was expected that you would pray. Also that you would bring your Bible at all times. So you go to church, you have to be prepared, bring your Bible.
What holidays you didn't practice or what do you mean?
So like Christmas wasn't really celebrated because it was seen as like a pagan holiday. Like Jesus Christ was not born in Christmas. So that was
Mm,
already something that was like renowned. It's like, oh, that's like pagan, that's of the world. So I guess they were really trying to create their own bubble away
mm-hmm.
from the world. And I think that that causes a lot of distress on a kid who is growing up in the world because they're going to school outside of this church world. And then they come to this church world and the church is telling them like, oh, it's actually supposed to be a certain way.
Yeah.
So like I think that caused a lot of division in me growing up.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I mean, I just I just remember going to church sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually we stopped going. And it wasn't so much always like just because of the people or whatever. It
Yeah.
was just we just stopped going. And however, at home, my mom always talked about God. She will always say, go with God. Like if we go somewhere, like she'll always,
So
I remember,
God, yeah, God was already like
like
there
it
in a
was just
sense.
normal. Yeah, it was normalized. Like
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like God was already in our home. Yeah, like God was already in our
God's
home.
already
Then what's the
there.
point of going to? I never
Yeah.
saw it that way.
Yeah, but I think that there's the Christians, I guess, the religious Christians see that as problematic because you have to go to the church to practice the
Yeah,
religion.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because my mom would say, I she would say the opposite. She was like, I don't need to go to church to prove that I
Mm.
love God or that
Oh.
God, she'd be like, I know where I stand. She was very confident about that,
Mm-hmm.
and
That's good.
I would just whatever I believe in, I will promote that among my children,
Mm.
and so
I like
you
that.
know, unfortunately, eventually, at least for me, I stopped. I don't want to say I stopped believing God, but
Mm-hmm.
somehow religion and
Sorry,
God.
I'm not sure about that.
I don't know what that was. God, is that you?
I think that was God.
but
No.
we're having a religious moment right here.
So growing up, in I guess some of the rituals that you were talking about, people would go to the mountains and pray, and they would come back and they would like share their testimonies of what happened, the miracles, and they would take photos. And I remember them being very perplexed at like bubbles that would appear in the photos. And for them, that was a sign of like, oh, that's the Holy Spirit, you know? And I'm like, maybe that's just like a malfunction of the camera, you know? But it makes you wonder. It's like, well, these
Yeah.
people really believe that that can exist.
I had a problem with God or religion because by the time I came out, my mom started using God and religion as a way
Mm,
to say, why are you like this? You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
And so, in turn, it made me believe that God wasn't good because it was telling my
Mm,
mom that I was a bad person, that I'm a sinner, and all these things. You know what I mean? And
mm,
so that's when I started like questioning religion even more. Um,
right.
so
So, did you ever see growing up in the church any positive like representation of gay people or
well, like I said, we went to church very few times,
okay,
and then after that we stopped going to church.
okay,
And actually, it's not until now that I'm older that I've gone to church a couple of times.
mm-hmm,
Like my partner's mom,
mm-hmm,
their family, they go to church for Christmas, like before Christmas, like I believe that Christmas Eve, the 24th,
mm-hmm,
like a midnight mass, they go and I go with them as well because I'm very respectful
mm-hmm,
about the religion, but also because part of me, um, I guess I want again because religion was something normalized in
mm-hmm.
my culture that sometimes it's so hard for me to be like, you know, I don't want to do part with it. What about you? Have you ever questioned or what have you given more thought about religion or the way you were raised in regards to religion?
I mean, it's definitely shaped the way I think. I'm not gonna deny that it had an impact on the way that I think now. But I think that I can see like through the holes, and that's problematic for a lot of the Christians, that you can question anything. And I think that a major part of being human is to question things, like don't take things at face value. And for them, it was always like, just accept it, it's the truth, You don't question it, so then you don't have any turmoil in your head about things. And I think for me, because I
It's kind
just
of to
like
avoid the burden.
yeah, exactly. To like
Mm.
let go of that. And for me, my mind, for as long as I can remember, has always been like thinking and thinking and thinking. And I don't think I wasn't able to accept it as truth.
It's interesting you mention
Yeah.
that because maybe for other parents, especially or caregivers, they probably feel the same when it comes to sexuality. They feel the same way. It's more like I love you still, but it's
Mm
not me who makes the rules. It's God or
hmm.
it's
Mm hmm.
whoever it is, and I'm just I guess a messenger, and I'm telling you because unfortunately because of that reason, I cannot accept you or I cannot,
Mm.
you know.
But I think that what Jesus really talked about, from what I remember, was always just like love your neighbor and help each other out. Like he would talk to prostitutes. He would talk to poor people, people that have leprosy. Like he was talking to everyone, you know. So and we exclude those people automatically. So like, what's up with that?
What's up with that?
You know,
Like,
like what's going on?
that is so
You
interesting.
know, that's just how I see it. Yeah.
So
So
it's safe to assume that you're not that religious now.
no. No, yeah, it is safe to assume, but I still find myself thinking about God. Actually, you
Mhm.
know, last night I was there's this book series that I read growing up called the Left Behind series, and I was reading it last night, and it's kind of scary how I was saying how Jesus is all about love and including people, but he is so quick to turn like the people that are out to do evil. So like there was this one part in the series where Jesus opens this hole on the earth and like throws Satan in there, or he like makes him like hide out for like 1,000 years. So it's always that battle between good and evil, you
Mm,
know. So I think
yeah.
maybe Jesus is out there to just fight evil. I don't
Yeah,
know.
interesting.
Find
No,
love and fight evil.
the point that I'm trying to make, at least from my end, is not to say that religion is bad or anything like
Mhm.
that. I appreciate how you put it. It worked for my mom,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
what you said, and
totally.
it worked for mine too.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it was then converted to a tool against me
Mhm.
and the community I'm part of, and so then it leaves you kind of like, how can I love something that was used to hurt me? I always say I'm not the religious. I usually sometimes classify myself as agnostic. Like I
Mhm.
believe there's a higher power somehow.
Mhm.
But the reason why I chose that at that moment, this was kind of a while back. At the time, I said, "Well, I never seen God. I've never, like you said, never had that spiritual awakening. So
Mhm.
how, why should I just go with the flow and say yes, it exists?
Mhm.
You know? But though I sometimes do think there is some universe or something out there,
Mhm.
whether it's a person, energy, or something that maybe guides us. And I only think about this when crazy things happen,
Mhm. Yeah,
which
yeah.
is interesting because when crazy things happen to me, like bad things happen to me, for example,
Mhm.
that's when I say, "Oh, Dios mío, God, please help me." So, how do you reconciliate with religion, or how are you in regards to religion now?
I don't think I'm religious, still, but I think that there is a natural feeling about wanting to find peace, and I think maybe that's what religion does to other people. But I want to find a different way. So what I was doing, or what I did, what I came across studying psychology was Buddhism, and it helped me to understand mindfulness and how to be at ease with oneself and how to just be like present in the moment. And I think that that's something that a lot of us don't have practice in. And if we're
Yeah,
able to do that, then I feel like we could probably reconciliate with like a lot of past traumas that, and one of them could be religion, like just being part of this organized religion that condemns everything.
yeah.
So just being at ease and being present.
I sometimes go to church as well, actually, and not like not for like the mass, but
Mhm.
like for example, I remember one time I was walking around the valley when I used to live in the valley, and um, I came across this church, and I was like, you know what? Let me go in, and I
Mhm.
went in, and walking in, I kind of felt bad because I haven't been there in forever,
Mhm.
or church per se. It was a big church.
Mhm.
There was like Jesus right there,
Mhm.
huge Jesus right there,
Oh, okay.
But I just remember like asking them like for some peace or for something like that. You know what I mean? But I appreciate what you said about you know trying to find, and I think that's with a lot of identities, which we're just trying to figure it out,
Mhm.
and maybe get a piece of little here, get a little piece of there, and maybe not so much creating my own religion, but more
Mhm.
like I just wanna follow certain practices, and
Mhm.
and maybe without even have to be labeling myself.
Yeah, I think maybe it's all about ritual. It's like we want to have something that we can do like consistently. You know, I think that's what our ancestors did for a long time. You know, they would have these rituals for rain, for the season, for celebrations. So I think maybe a lot of that has been lost in the, colonization of all these Latin American countries, and I think maybe that's where we're at. We're trying to, we don't necessarily have to go back to those past rituals, but maybe we can bring them back in a way that is really true to ourselves.
Yeah.
So that could be a way of reconciliation.
Yeah, and it's and the reality is that religion is a big part of our culture, right? Like I remember one time, I went over to my brother's, and my somehow the conversation came up, and my sister-in-law, I'm sorry, she was like, "You do know he's not religious." She told my brother. My brother turned around so quickly and was like, "What? You're not religious?" Or she said, you know, he doesn't believe in God, something like that." And he just went, "What?" And then it made me feel bad at the moment, and the only reason why is because it made me feel. I started assuming that the reason why he felt that way about me, or what he was like the sudden expression, was because it made it seem almost like I'm attacking culture or our culture. You know what I mean? Like, how can I disown a part of our culture? You know, and in my head I was like, well, that part disowned me.
Yeah.
You know, or at least it was used to disown me, and especially because they use that God to, like, for example, to pray, like when they remember about my mom who passed or things like that. You know, it's a big part of culture.
Yeah, totally.
And maybe people out there are kind of the same way, like with us, like they have this struggle of like, I want to be part of something or I want to practice something, but at the same time maybe it was used to either traumatize me or used in a way where it's not very pleasant, and so it makes me push back. You know, but because it was so ingrained in us growing up that we always come back to it. You know, if you're thinking about religion or you want to somehow go back, I would say give it a try and look into different things and do whatever makes you happy. You know, and the same thing with any identity. You know, but unfortunately, religion is such a taboo topic. Final thoughts?
Final thoughts about religion. I don't know. I can't think of anything right now. This was a good topic, though. I think it's gonna open everyone up to talking about how they've felt like religion was used against them, and I think a lot of that community will probably try and find a space to kind of heal from that, or maybe they already found it.
Yeah.
You know.
I think my takeaway with having this conversation is how you said it may not work for me, or at least it's not now yet. But it worked for my mom. It worked for it can work for everybody differently for every
totally.
folk. So that's a good takeaway. And so anyway, it was a very good conversation. So thank you everybody for watching. Please, we want to hear from you. Share your experience about growing up with religion. How have you reconciliated with religion? So leave all your feedback in the comments below, or contact us. Send me an email if you want. I'll leave the information. But yeah, thank you for watching, and well, we'll see you next time. Bye.